welcome to DasGeek. Do you ever get that feeling you're being set up? So if you were requested for me to do a review on Sparky, and well, this is it. You can see this desktop, this distribution, and we'll go through some of its features here. But the reason I started with saying sometimes you feel like you're being set up is this distribution just leaves so much to be desired. I think they're close in having something really unique here, but it just misses the mark in so many ways for me. And you may completely differ. You may absolutely love everything Sparky has to offer, and more power to you. But for me, I think it just, well, there's one word for this distribution, at least with this desktop environment, which is the LXQt, which is one of the default desktop environments that come with this distribution, is, well, oh, oh, I mean, it's so 1990s. I don't know. I think the wallpaper should just be a picture of Alanis Morissette. I let me show you. I know I'm being ugly, but this type of thing is, if somebody was to switch to this, or I was to try to show someone in Linux, this is why you need to go from Windows to Linux and show them this desktop environment. Well, I just don't think it's going to it's certainly not going to convince anybody of the power of Linux. And certainly this could be like one of those sleeper cars, right? Where you think you're racing a Honda Accord, but it's really got the super fine-tuned engine behind it. And of course it does, because at the end of the day, this still runs Linux. It's a Debian-based distribution. But before we even get into their own description of the product, and yes, we will switch to a different desktop environment, but I'll show you the issues there as well, something more modernized like KDE Plasma. But the issues don't really matter which desktop environment you're in, because you still kind of get that very not well put together user experience. This certainly reminds me of something where they focus more on the features than the user experience, and you can tell things feel broken. And perhaps this is because this is the new SparkyLinux 5 that just came out, or perhaps this is user error. Maybe I'm just not as good at Linux as I thought. But certainly comparing this to something like Manjaro, to me, they're just in completely different worlds. Frankly, comparing this to Ubuntu, Budgie, I think this is in a completely different world. Click on the menu here. Well, what's first is you're going to see what I searched for. You're not going to actually get a menu, because that's how its search works. I give them props for the fact that you can search, but when you do search, it's going to basically bring up your search and nothing else the next time you click on the window. So if I come here and I type in Kden Live will certainly come up and it'll launch, but then when I go back, well, it's kind of stuck there. And then there's the menu itself. So where do you go and find a file manager, for instance? This uses something like PC Mac Man or something as its file manager by default. Is it under preferences, system tools? Wait, usually in a desktop environment, you would have like a folder down here you would click to get to your files, but no such luck. If you want that, well, you're going to have to customize it. And even that option, well, is kind of crappy. Let's see, we can manage widgets or configure panel. Maybe it was configure panel. Oh no, it wasn't that. Let's go into manage widgets. I think it's here. We want to add a file so we can just see our full. Let's click add, if I remember, and there was something here like directory menu. That's as close as we can get. So we'll add that widget there. And now I get some of my files here that I can get to. All the way across the other side of the desktop. Or where did they end up put it? Under accessories is where your PC Mac Man file manager is, and you can see your file manager here, and everything just looks so Windows 90 to me in this entire thing, from the icons to the layouts to the themes. I thought because it's Debian based, I could get Albion Online to work in this. In fact, Albion Online advertises on SparkyLinux, but it just kind of loads the loading screen and freezes. Ubuntu seems to be the only OS. This is not necessarily against Sparky that can run Albion online. That's more Albion's fault. There are some good things in this distribution, but let's talk about it from the website standpoint. They say, why Sparky? Well, it's a Debian-based Linux distribution, ready out of the box. I don't really agree with that. It's targeted at all computer users who want to replace existing proprietary-driven OS to an open-sourced, perhaps. And this is a lightweight distribution, a lightweight desktop environment. At the same time, there are many lightweight desktop environment choices and distributions out there. So certainly this isn't the only one. Even if you're saying, hey, you're being hard on this because you got this, real powerful machine and you want all of these graphical interfaces and all that. And not really. I don't really need that much graphics. It just needs to look like it's from this century. Main features of Sparky: Debian testing based rolling releases, which I really like. It's very similar to Manjaro, so they're trying to stay on the cutting edge. You can see that kind of screen tearing there. It's probably a setting within Mozilla that I need to fix here. I think there's some type of scrolling setting in Mozilla. Use smooth scrolling. Let's get rid of that. All right. There we go. That's better. So ultralight based edition with OpenBox or JWN desktops. You've got a lot of desktop choices, but you're going to see the problem with that as well here in a minute. Special gaming edition, game over edition, which comes with a bunch of open source games installed and not a lot of other frills from what I could read. So if you just want a bunch of pre-installed games for you, that may be a cool option. CLI edition, no X for building customized desktop, most wireless and mobile network cards supported, set of selected applications, multimedia codecs and plugins. So it does tout that it can, play DVDs and all of that on the onset, although there is an option within the menu system, if you can find it, for you to install those codecs and things like that. But it does have a pretty quick option for installing that. So you can play DVDs and things out of the box without having to install any other drivers. Own repository, large set of additional applications, easy hard drive USB installation. In general, Sparky is not targeted to Linux beginners, rather to users with some amount of Linux knowledge. Well, I think I barely qualify to some amount of Linux knowledge, but I'm not sure that even if you're an advanced user, you're going to find this fantastic. And maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. If you love Sparky, leave it in the comments below what I'm missing about this. I'm really surprised because generally when I do get a viewer recommended distribution, it's amazing. That's how I found Manjaro. That's how I found Ubuntu Budgie. That's how I've played with a lot of the distribution Mint that I absolutely loved and stuff. This one just... I can't feel it. So let's look at some of the options you get here. Here's about LXQt. Really don't want to know more about that. You've got the Synaptic Package Manager. You've got a system administrative tool there, screensaver, OpenGAK, Java 8 policy tool, OpenBox configuration tool. The NVIDIA settings, I will give it that it had support right out of the box, even during install for NVIDIA. Some distributions while you're installing them, especially early on when I got the 1080. I haven't really run into it recently, but there were certain distributions like Ubuntu, for instance, where it wouldn't display all my monitors, or I'd have my mouse kind of stuck up in the screen and it wouldn't work until I installed the proprietary drivers for NVIDIA. But this didn't have that issue at all. In fact, the installation was very smooth, except for at one point the screensavers just kicked on in the middle of me making selections. Which was kind of freaky because the screensavers are all these blobby moving things. And my mouse would not remove the screensaver. I had to use my keyboard. So again, I'm not sure what caused that, but just something to take note on if it happens to you. KDE system settings, ICT web control panel, firewall configuration, device driver, LXQt settings. So in the LXQt configuration center, you can customize some options here. What I'm looking for is there's aptus. This is kind of one of the unique options within SparkyLinux, is this aptus and aptus extra. So when you go into aptus here, you've got some cool options like safely upgrade your system. I wish they had this on a splash screen so that when you first because I had to do some research to find this even existed. They don't talk about it anywhere, and I wish when the system kind of first booted up, it told you, gave you a little nice screen and showed you some things to go check out that made it unique, because I think Aptus is pretty cool. Here you can open Aptus Extra, which is also a separate program listed out. You have a desktop remover, remove non-free packages, remove old system kernels. So you could do a lot of cool things here with a click of a button, like get rid of all those deb files and everything else that you have maybe left over. So one of the things I really like, this is where you install your multimedia codecs, by the way, to support all the different options like browser plugin for VLCs, ICE-T plugins, your DVD abilities, all that stuff. Lame. All right. Oops. I think I might have kicked it off. Okay, great. All right, so this is the desktop installer. This is one of the things I think is really unique because clearly I don't like LXQt, so I'll just go to something else, which I did, but I couldn't use this. What happens is when I click on this and I go, like I want to have Budgie installed, and I click OK, and it looks like it's going to work, and this is pretty cool. And then I get two options here, which is kind of odd. But no matter which one I choose, I get the same error. Something is wrong, cannot find the new desktop file, so user studies will not be copied to the directory. Great. So what I had to do was manually go through the terminal and install the desktop environment that I wanted, which in this case was KDE. Some of the desktop environments were giving me random errors for couldn't install them even through the terminal because of a printer configuration issue or something else, which I have no idea why that would stop a desktop environment. But there we go. So again, 90s, very 90s feel, some neat options and opportunities here to make a unique user experience, but they just seem to be poorly implemented or half-baked. We talked about the screensaver kicking off in the install. I didn't notice that they had any encryption option while I was doing the install. Now, it may have been under advanced or something, but it wasn't a clear menu item there for me to choose while I was doing the install. DVD and MP3 support out of the box is something great. I'm not a big fan of the wallpaper. It's kind of like a zoomed in piece of blue construction paper. There is, on my other screen, it throws the actual SparkyLinux thing on there, but it's not much cleaner either. So again, you could change the wallpaper, not a big deal, but first impressions do matter. If somebody was installing this just coming from Windows and thinking they're going to go to Linux and somebody recommended Sparky, this is the type of stuff they're going to run into. And I think that's kind of a shame. Now, they do mention to their credit that this is not for beginners. It does give you an upgrade prompt the second you boot in, which I was happy about that. Again, I think it needs like a welcome splash screen to tell you about some of its other features. It has the PCMan FM file manager. The NVIDIA driver was easy to install, rolling release. You got the Synaptic package manager if you like that. The GW package installer, click and drag icons. So I will say, as antiquated and terrible as this menu is to try to work with, you can click and drag, which some desktop environments don't have that option, which is definitely a feature everything should have, so you can drag things to your desktop quickly. Auto installs, missing Steam dependencies on there. So when I tried to install Steam, I believe through Synaptic, it had some issues there with missing dependencies, but I eventually got that to work. I couldn't get Enlightenment desktop environment to work, but then I realized I couldn't get any others to work either. So now let's take a look at the same distribution in KDE Plasma, because I love KDE Plasma, and I can tell you when I moved to KDE Plasma from this thing, I instantly felt more at home, but lo and behold, you'll see the issues there too. All right, so this is Sparky, but with a much more modern desktop environment, KDE here. And you can see, oh my gosh, we actually can type stuff in and search for it, and it doesn't just lock you into search mode. You can get to your file managers fast and easy, but look what's happening. We get some type of sensor bar texting thing that just occurs randomly here. Seems to happen and infect anytime your mouse goes over it. I don't know if it's some type of theming issue or what. Well, inspect GTK icon theme here. Looks like we can mess with our icons or change their looks or something around there. But at least, things are a little more searchable, even though you no longer get text. So there's that. Let's take a look at the community support here for Sparky. So well, before we do that, let's talk about one more package manager they have, which is Discover. So this is a software center that they have, and where you can install some of their applications and add-ons to your system here as well. So kind of their own little store of open source software that we can install. Let's find something here to install. How about Abe's Amazing Adventure? That looked good. Where'd it go? Abe, where are you, Abe? Oh, maybe a 3D light cycle game. Let's go for that, because we got to get some gaming on in here. And frankly, I don't want to install Steam on this because I don't want to have to go through all the sign-ons and logins and everything else for a desktop environment. I'm clearly not going to stick with. Did we install a game? Maybe it's under games. Let's hope here. All right, good. Wow, it's literally going across all three screens. I have no idea what you guys see. That was an experience. Let's not do that. Maybe Abe here. I don't know what it literally just panned across all three screens. I guess that could be kind of cool if you're looking for that type of experience. If you had your monitor synced like they should. All right, let's turn the music off. Start game. It again shut off both my other monitors. Literally shut them off. That is bizarre. I wonder if they'll all come back now. I don't even know if you guys are seeing this. So I don't know what you've seen, but it literally would play the game and shuts off both other of my monitors completely, which I've actually never seen happen before. So let's not do that either. For those for reference, because maybe you have a different system and hardware and you're not having these issues, and you can see kind of when you're scrolling, it cuts off some of the tops of the text, which is just odd. I used a GeForce, NVIDIA GeForce 1080, Intel i7 6700K, 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. This isn't installed on my NVMe M2. It's installed on a just regular Pony SSD hard drive in here. So that's the main hardware that I run. So very modern hardware. There's your multimedia codecs. Let's look at the community here and see what kind of support you get for Sparky. I like to look at the communities in the forums to see how people talk to each other within these forums, to see how helpful they are. That's the wrong Sparky. Oh my gosh. But funny. Because I could tell you a lot about whether, a distribution like this would be worth fighting through some of the issues with it in order to get it installed. So let's talk about maybe some newbie questions. See how they treat newbie questions, see how active the topics are. So you got one topic from today, and today on the 1st, and you got one from the 31st and one from the 30th. So pretty active forum here. Let's see how many 5 replies. So far, people are actually helping. They're not saying, "Go look at the man pages, you idiot." Looks like people are looks like people are pretty helpful here with Sparky. This scares me. All these nice people, and I've done nothing but rip on this poor distribution the whole time. And I'm really thinking maybe it's just my specific hardware setup just doesn't work with it, which in itself is an issue. Or I caught Sparky at the wrong time, being that they just released a new version, and or because maybe I'm too new to Linux and my expectations for things the way they aren't realistic. I don't know. But I do know that if I was to try to take a Windows member and show them Linux based on some of these things that I'm running into, this would not sell them to switch operating systems. Whereas I think something a little more solid and stable like Manjaro or Ubuntu Budgie or any of those others seem to focus on this user experience and work out from there. So while some things are locked down in certain distributions, or Manjaro is just ridiculously configurable, it all is a part of the whole user experience from the get-go. You're not hunting down to try to find where to configure or change these things. It's very there and in your face and has a natural flow, and things are listed in areas where they should be, and you can get to your files right away in your file manager, and things are designed in such a way that they, while still being lightweight in some cases, like with Ubuntu Budgie, still offering you a feeling that you're using an operating system from today. Now, obviously, when I install KDE in this, I get more of that feeling I'm an operating system from today, but things like the missing text that goes away is such a deal breaker. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know about these games. They could be just crappy games, period, but it's kind of odd that they both shut down my monitors when I tried to use them. Some of the features and options like apus are really cool. There's some system administration tools in here. There's a bunch of cool things, screenshot, capture utilities, kwrite, xfburn, but all of these you could go install in any other distro. It's not what makes, the software, what they include is a part of the distribution, but for the most part, you can go install that stuff in any distribution or grab a desktop environment. To me, it's that whole user experience being molded into one that can really differentiate one distro from another. And also the fact that this LXQt, this LXQt is their default desktop environment that you would download. And it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. So, SparkyLinux. At the end of the day, I'm sure this is not going to make me popular. I'll probably get tons of downvotes. I know a lot of people like SparkyLinux. It just doesn't work for me. I've given you the reasons why. There are some neat things in here. I think if they focus on the user experience and then work out, they can make this something truly that competes with some of the most acclaimed distributions out there like Manjaro. But there's going to be some work that needs to be done here, and I hope they continue to do it. Like I said, this has the makings for something great. It's just not quite there yet. So that's it. Leave your comments below. And until next time, get out there and fill your brains. Don't forget us.